Join your host, Maddie Roche, as she brings you into a community of fee-only financial advisors who are successfully building profitable businesses that serve the next generation of clients. Learn from innovative advisors whose unique stories will inspire you to dream big and take action on your goals. Are you ready to live your best life and help your clients live theirs? Then you're in the right place.
Hello, and welcome to XYPN Radio. This is Maddie Roche, your host, and this is episode 310. I'm excited to welcome back Ayers and Shane Mason, co-founders of Brooklyn FI, to the XYPN radio show for a check-in on their growth trajectory that they discussed back in episode 221. As you'll hear on today's show, they have continued that growth trajectory and more. Brooklyn FI now has 10 employees, plus an intern, all fully remote, that serve over 200 client households. And they're pushing the $2 million mark in revenue this year. On the show today, we discuss what that growth has been like, from how to identify great talent for their team to how they handle the crazy demands of this year's tax season. They talk about why hiring an operations teammate early on was vital for their scalability and how their fee calculator on their website helps with transparency and that inevitable difficult conversation around fees. I particularly loved Shane and AJ's take on their impact, how they got into this business, and how they've managed to keep up with the demands of their growing firm. You can sense their authenticity and their passion for what they do through this interview, and it's hard not to want to be part of their team. If you're looking for some great advice around growing and scaling your business, then this episode is totally for you. Avocado toast, selfies, a mountain of student loan debt. Gen Y is anything but traditional, and with over 75 million people, it's a population you don't want to ignore. Learn more about how to serve this unique population in our guide called Attract and Profitably Serve Millennial Clients in Your RIA. Discover 3 key ways to tap into the millennial market and 6 things that they want from their financial advisor. Visit xyplanningnetwork.com/millennials for your free copy. Also, be sure to go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to join our private group just for XYPN radio listeners. It's a community of advisors we've all been looking for that's there to provide support when we need it the most. Best of all, it's free. I encourage you to check it out. Again, that's xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP. Without further ado, here's my interview. Hello, AJ and Shane. Welcome to XYPN Radio. I should say welcome back to XYPN Radio.
It's so great to be here, Maddie. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's been about 1.5 years since AJ and Shane have been on the radio show. And back then they were experiencing rapid growth, and today they're experiencing rapid growth. So I wanted an opportunity to check in with these two and hear what they've been building and some of the changes that have taken place in their firm. So AJ, if you wouldn't mind just doing the honors, get us up to speed a bit on who you are and what Brooklyn FI is all about.
Yeah, so Brooklyn FI we're a fee-only RIA based in Brooklyn, New York, but we did go fully remote as of March of 2020. So I'm based in Brooklyn. Shane's mostly based in Brooklyn. We have a few team members in Brooklyn, but we've since added team members all over the country. We've got someone in San Diego, Austin, Texas, Chicago. So that's probably been the biggest change. Our niche is mostly tech entrepreneurs, so people who work in tech who have equity compensation. But we also serve creative professionals. So we serve a lot of business owners as well. We actually find that there's this really unique marriage of literal and figurative marriage of tech entrepreneurs and creative entrepreneurs. So we've got someone who works at Google who's got stock options married to a interior designer. So that's been a really nice marrying of those two niches for Brooklyn FI. Also, there's a lot of creative folks in Brooklyn and a lot of folks who work in tech. So that's just been really nice for the growth of the firm and the story as we've evolved a little bit. Numbers wise, we've got about 200 client households that we serve, we have a lot of single folks. So that's about 300 clients total. Let's see, revenue numbers. We're on track this year to do just over 2 million if we continue at the growth that we've experienced. We're adding about 15 clients a month right now, which has been wonderful, but also a great challenge for us to catch up with, adding new team members, finding great CFPs to join the Brooklyn FI family. So it's been a wild year. COVID was hard for us, but we came out of it. It's been a growth moment for us. When you say
it's funny that you You're calling adding a client every other day wonderful on this podcast. It's not exactly the easiest thing to do mechanically. Yes, it's good for growth. But
it's good for growth. And I think, that's definitely a testament to the team members that we've added who, they start, and instead of going through our carefully laid out 6-week training program, it's like, you got to meet with a client tomorrow because, we've got new folks that we've got to serve and we've got to deliver great service there. So yeah, we're chugging along here, Maddie.
Oh, well, congratulations. I just have a big smile on my face as I hear this experience of yours. I've got so many questions for you, but Shane, why don't you just let the listeners know who haven't listened to episode 221, just kind of know the story between you and AJ. And you very much were kind of what I think a lot of our listeners were, which is folks in the industry that were kind of thinking there was something different that they could do. Go ahead and lay that story out for us, please.
Yeah, I'm not great at long story short, but I'll do my best. For listeners that want the longer story, there is another episode. I think it's 221. Is that what it was, Maddie? The original one? Yeah. And then long story short, I was a tax professional, Big Four, and then a smaller firm. And then I realized that advice is really where the future is in the financial services industry, and was getting a ton of questions from my clients in the tax space about investments, backdoor Roths, insurance, et cetera. I realized that everyone's an insurance salesman to exaggerate a bit, and realized that I wanted to get into providing advice. Got my CFP, spent a couple of years doing it on the side, realized how much more fun it is and more invigorating and fulfilling it is to provide advice, and was going to start my own RIA when I met AJ, who interviewed me for a podcast, another podcast that listeners can go back and listen to her Money Explained podcast and actually meet listen to the first time we ever talked to each other, which is pretty cool. It's fun to reference that every once in a while. And we got beers, I don't know, like a week after that podcast to discuss me going to Japan, because AJ's a big Japanophile and she was giving me all the tips. We didn't even talk about Japan very much. It was like 15 minutes. We just talked about getting into like providing financial advice for like 2 or 3 hours. I challenged her. I said, I'm going to start this firm. If you really want to be involved, you're going to have to get your CFP. Not really knowing AJ at the time, I didn't expect her to enroll in the NYU CFP program that weekend. And the rest is history. We got started on building Brooklyn FI. She couldn't own the firm until she passed her CFP. That was about 18 months later. And then when she got her marks, we had a big party, and then she became a full partner, and we're 50-50 partners in the firm.
Wow.
Yeah.
AJ, what were you doing when, outside of hosting a great podcast, which you're allowed to promote here, what were you doing when you and Shane met?
So my side project was that I was a podcast host, but my full-time job is that I worked on the editorial team of a company called Bandcamp. So I was basically writing album reviews for bands that had yet to gain popularity. So that was fun. And I was doing a little bit of comms and PR for Bandcamp as well. So I worked in tech, and my introduction to financial services was getting my ISO grant and saying, like, what is this? I don't know what this is, and I can't find anyone to explain it to me. Hence, I started the podcast. Hence, I met Shane. And here we are just about 4 years later.
I'm so impressed with how busy all of you stay. And I can only imagine the lack of sleep you get during tax season. But I've also heard that you guys are thinking about hosting a podcast. So tell us a bit about that.
We're very excited. Yeah, we've been a bit delayed from tax season, but hopefully launching this summer. It's called the Liquidity Event. So it'll have a little bit of focus on tech and obviously equity compensation, because that's our niche. But it'll be, Shane and I riff in on what we learned that week, what's in the news in the financial services industry and the tech industry, who's going public, what we think of these companies, what we've learned, and it'll be a lot of fun. And we've got artwork and we have music, but we have actually yet to record an episode.
Thank you, tax season.
Awesome. Well, listeners, be sure to download that when they go live. Well, let's get right to it. You guys are managing a lot of client households, more than, I wouldn't say most XYPN members, but yeah, probably most XYPN members. And you're doing it in a really intentional way with a number of different teammates. Could one of you talk to us about what it was like to make the decision to hire a third and maybe a fourth teammate back when you did add those additional staff members?
Yeah, I think, at first it was AJ and Shane, where, Shane was the lead advisor on most clients. I was the associate. Then we started sharing the clients. Then, Shane started focusing a lot more on the tax side of the practice, which is very important to the financial planning side of the practice because we do prepare tax returns for all of our clients. So I had about 105 clients on my plate, which is way too many. And that was really the first time we looked at hiring another lead advisor, who is a wonderful team member named John, who has been an integral part of building the firm and, leveling up the firm in the past year. John's plate got full very quickly. So it just became a capacity issue. We realized that, when you're starting to forget your clients' kids' names and, their dogs' names, that's when it's usually time to hire another advisor. Shane and I very early on decided that, about 80 client households was the number that, one advisor could safely manage and effectively manage. So that's kind of the number we've been working with as we started to hire. And, as the market is going through this sort of explosion of all these companies, these young companies going public a lot faster. So we've just had this large influx of clients, over the past 6 months, and we've been hiring, trying to find really great people who share the Brooklyn FI mission to come on board and, help us carry that forward, help us do great client work.
Did you ever do a wait list or anything with clients to kind of slow down and check in and decide if you wanted to maybe just raise prices and serve less? Or what was that debate like?
It's funny. We just put a wait list on about a week ago for the first time ever. It's only a month long. We're pushing everyone out to June 15th. No, we probably should have. There were times looking back, in September when we added 25 clients in 1 month because of a certain company had gone public. And, you get one client there, they share, I'm working with these great advisors at Brooklyn FI. You guys should check it out in the Slack channel. And that's been our biggest source of referrals. Absolutely. So for the first time, we just added a new team member, Michela, who's in San Diego. So we're going to give her some time to learn the Brooklyn FI ways of doing things, meet with existing clients before we start adding clients onto her plate. So we do currently have a month-long waiting list, but that was a hard decision for us.
Yeah, I bet. How have clients responded to that?
Well, there were so many times, just to circle back to that we realized that scale gives you a lot more tools, right? Like an ops team. We now have a fantastic ops team that helps us with support. We've got 2 full-time ops people that just take care of all of our ops back office stuff for us. And that's been incredibly helpful when it comes to getting TD paperwork signed and getting tax returns uploaded and reorganizing all of our databases, et cetera. And you realize that you need the revenue to get the ops, to get the scale. And it's just like a never ending cycle. So it was like, we were always like, we can't go on a wait list because then we can't get our ops team, which means we can't get these higher income clients, which means we can't get the AUM we want, which is like all these goals are just balls are in the air at the same time. And AJ and I just decided to work 7 days a week and have a lot of our employees stretch to reach these goals in order to get there. And we're not sure when that's going to stop, but hopefully next year.
Yeah, we keep saying, we're almost there. We're almost there, guys. Hang on for a little longer. But I really do think we are almost there. We're at a size now. There's going to be 11 of us. We have an intern starting on Monday. So our team is pretty big now. And, with size comes that opportunity to be more flexible, to move people around. I think one of the biggest wins we've had in the past year was one of our team members came to us and said, I don't think I'm in the right role. I'm struggling in this role. I really, really like what you guys are doing. I actually think, I want to be more on the operations side. And, we talked to her about it and we found we were big enough at that point to be able to move her to something else. And she has completely, excelled and created this new role and really made a difference for us this tax season. So, growth comes with its challenges, but it also comes with a lot of opportunities.
Totally. And kudos to you to create a culture that an employee would feel safe enough to be able to have that conversation with you.
Yeah. We finally sat down about a year ago to define our core values, which every business book will tell you to do. They say pick 2 or 3, and I think we have 8. But the first one is transparency. And, you can see that on our website where we list all of our fees there, but it's also with our team members. And, we take that very seriously. We have quarterly reviews. We don't want to wait till the end of the year to bring up issues. And it goes both ways. Our team members feel comfortable telling us when, they're feeling overwhelmed or they didn't like a management decision we made. So that 2-way transparency, that radical transparency is really important to both of us.
Totally. I'm always interested in the decision around the first hire. And the first hire is a hard one. It sounds like you hired John, an advisor, but was the ops person the fourth teammate with you two included? And why ops? And I love that you call it ops and that you really kind of have this definition of what they would do. I don't often hear that ops is the first or second hire.
Yeah, well, it's kind of hard. We're a little bit unique in that we have like the tax side of it too, which is like manpower heavy. So we're 50-50 at this point, but for a while we were like 70% tax team, even though about 70% of our revenue now comes from financial planning, maybe more than that at this point. There's some, the tax revenue is baked into the financial planning. Like we can get into all that, but let's not do that. But yeah, our first hire was just like tax managers to help us deal with the tax returns. But on the financial planning side, yes, our first hire was John to assist with like when you just have a ton of clients coming and like knocking on the door. We didn't really have, our coaches told us like, you don't hire people to help you scale, like help one advisor stretch from 80 to 100. You just get another seat there for an advisor to take on the next 80. And then once you have trouble with growth, once the growth slows down, then you need to stretch your advisors from 80 to 100 via an ops team. Not exactly sure how the mechanics of all that, what the mechanics are with that, but like why that is economies of scale. But that's the strategy that we're going with, is just getting more advisors to handle the influx of clients as they come on board.
Right.
Yeah. And I think on the ops side, we started working with Angie Herbers earlier this year, and that was something we'd want to do for a while. We were a big admirer of hers. And I think, we finally felt together that we were in a position where she could add a ton of value. And immediately in our first two meetings, she was like, you need to do this, 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 and this. And we were like, yes, Angie, we will do that.
Yes, you got it.
And that was, the birth and the focus of the ops team. And, Ellen is our head of ops on the financial planning side. And she's just, she asks me questions, like she keeps us in line. And, I love having that support. And, they're really the backbone of the firm operations, because there's so much paperwork, as I'm sure everyone listening knows.
Well, and it just sounds like there's so much they could do to allow the financial planners to really focus on the client experience. But with a lot of this growth, I just feel like at some point, did you just start hiring and all of a sudden you're at 10 teammates, or did you really want to grow a big firm when you started all of this?
It's funny, that idea of like, is this the firm that we wanted to build? I think so. I think it happened a lot faster. I think it happened a lot faster than Shane and I thought it would. I think we thought it would be Shane and AJ for a couple of years figuring it out. And we hired our first tax manager, within the first 6 months, because we needed help. So the decision to add people, the decision to grow and become that enterprise firm, that's sort of always been the plan. Some days we'll listen to a Kids' podcast and we'll, listen to someone who's got a fantastic lifestyle practice, and we'll kind of look at each other and be like,
wait a second.
What are we doing? We look at each other Saturday night at 7 p.m. after a day of doing tax returns. Like, are we doing this the right way? But I really think we are. And, building a firm like this, it's not just about Shane and AJ anymore. It's about, our fantastic team members. It's about all the clients. Like, it's become so much bigger than us. And I think the focus really for the next phase of Brooklyn FI is going to be figuring out what our roles are going to be going forward, and passing the hat off to, the next great team member who's going to run the show and allow us to focus on things like podcasting, which we're very excited about.
And giving them whatever they need to be good financial planners. People are upset with wherever they're at whatever firm. Like maybe it's not a fee only firm and they want to go fee only. Maybe they don't want to go into the office. They want to work remotely. Our job, we see on phase 2 for AJ and I, is just giving those people that want to do great work within the Brooklyn FI philosophy and ethos, giving them the tools they need to get that work done, whether that's someone dedicated to financial planning, someone to building the plans for them, someone designed just doing the paperwork, handling tech, handling security, whatever it is, they can focus on providing great experiences for the clients, is really where AJ and I are heading.
I'm interested in your roles and continuing this conversation. How much of your time is spent managing versus doing? I hear you both mention, after a long day of tax returns, are you guys still doing tax returns all day, or are you really kind of the founder and CEO of the company?
We were not supposed to. That was not our intent for, I think a good leader, when times get tough, they get down in the trenches. And that's where I've been on the tax side for the past 3-4 months. This is my 10th tax season. I thought this would be one that I was less hands-on, more management, rather than in the trenches, but it called for it this year. We have a lot of new clients and everyone, like COVID was a crazy year. It's really hard to gauge capacity, how complex all these returns were going to be. It turns out, I don't know, everyone has a multi-state tax return this year. So, and lots of crazy equity comp, and equity comp gets even crazier when it's multi-state, a lot of international issues that we're dealing with. So we just have a lot to do on the tax side. So hopefully it'll be 50-50 management versus actually doing the work this year. And the second half of the year will be easier. But at least for me, I've been doing a lot of work this year. We'll do management later. AJ, what's going on with you?
Yeah, I think on the planning side, I was able to, we've got John, we've got Jason, who are our 2 other planners at the moment. I was able to earlier this year give a lot of my, transition a lot of my clients over to Jason, which was mostly seamless. I thought that went really well. So I think, my time is now about 50% work and about 50% management. We've got a brand new advisor who's just started, so I'm spending a lot of time with her. We've got an intern starting. So, I want my role to be in the future, as a mentor, as a leader, spending time, we do the work we do on the equity comp it's highly technical and it's really complicated and it takes a long time to get. So just making ourselves available to new team members to help them understand it. Because once you get it, you feel this like insane sense of power that like, wow, we can really help these folks who, would have paid, I don't know, an extra $700,000 in taxes had they not, reached out to us. So having that feeling of being able to help a client and like really being able to change their life and, passing that torch on to the next generation of planners, that's really where my focus is going to be for the next year.
Yeah, great. And what a fun evolution to be able to move into that role. How do you maintain your culture? It sounds like everyone is all across the country. What is the rhythm that you meet? How do you keep your core values front of mind? How do you become the leaders you want to become?
It's a struggle. We've got our scheduled Zoom meetings. We have an all hands meeting on Monday. We have Zappy Hour on Fridays, which is a
Zappy
Zoom
Hour. Tell me about that.
You're invited, Maddie, obviously.
Thank you.
It's 5:15 on Friday evenings. It's grab a drink if that's what you like to do. Let's chat for 15-30 minutes. Let's not talk about work. What's everyone doing this weekend? That's been kind of funny over the past year because no one has been doing anything because of COVID. But I hope that, that will start to change and that will pick up a little bit. It's really weird. We haven't met 6 of our employees in person.
No way.
Which is wild.
Is that by happenstance or intentional or what?
Just COVID, we've added a bunch of folks this year and, honestly, it's been really scary in New York and other hotspots. So we haven't really felt comfortable traveling and, we're not going to stick anyone on a plane until everyone is vaccinated, but we are really excited about our first annual Brooklyn FI company retreat, which is happening this summer at the end of July in a beautiful place on a little stream in upstate New York. So we're going to bring the whole team out, have everyone meet for the first time, do a mixture of, sure, we'll do some work, we'll do some brainstorming and yearly planning and forecasting, whatever. Yeah. And, we'll play Can Jam and cook together and, play in the stream. So I think that having everyone meet in person is going to be really important.
Play in the stream. You might want to explain that.
There's like a stream running through the beautiful property.
AJ's pumped about the stream.
Play in the stream.
The stream is beautiful. We're going to get some tubes. It's going to be good. But no, it's I worked in tech before, so I was sort of used to the remote environment, trying to form relationships with your colleagues via Zoom. And, we've made it work. And I think I've noted, nothing is greater as a business owner to watch your employees have like inside jokes with each other that you don't know about, and that they're connecting and you're not involved. Like that to me has been just an awesome feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, I try to get in on the joke and they're like, okay, buddy.
Get out of the way, grandpa. Yeah. I mean, sometimes we do feel a bit like mom and dad, but we don't want that, but it does happen sometimes. Mom and dad are fighting. Everyone's going to have a bad week.
Totally. I think the position of manager, but more importantly, the position of founder and kind of presidents of your company does give you that power edge. And it's not something everyone loves. And it's something I think some of us take for granted and we forget and we want to have that inside joke, but you're still in charge of people's livelihoods and salaries and things like that. How do you balance that?
Yeah, that's really hard. It's something that you can read all about it, read 15 books, talk to coaches, but until you have to let that first person go, which AJ had to deal with for the first time a few months ago, which was really difficult. Like then you realize that, you can't be friends with everyone. You can just do your best. And that's just part of the natural ecosystem of the office.
Mm-hmm.
You can only go so far, but you try to have as much fun as you can while you're doing good work. And as long as everyone is an adult about it, then you can have as much fun as you can, but it just is what it is.
Yeah. Where are you finding some of your new teammates? How are you attracting them? I mean, obviously I would, folks would seriously want to work with you, but where are you finding and identifying the best talent for your team?
We always have open positions on our website. So we're kind of always hiring for an associate and a lead advisor because at this point, we're on track to kind of hire in each of those positions probably once every 4 months. So we're always looking to meet amazing new people. CFP, obviously super important. So, I mean, honestly, Shane was just on Michael Kitz's podcast, and we had a lot of folks reach out after that. It's telling our story. I think we're I don't want to call us disruptors because everyone in XY is a disruptor, but being part of that community and, being really strong about who Brooklyn FI is and what we're trying to do, I think attracts, when someone submits a resume, we ask for a video, we ask for a quick 2-minute video to introduce themselves. For the most part, everyone who reaches out is someone we want to meet because they've identified that this is a culture that they like. A lot of folks want to work with young people, and our average client age is 34. So we've got 23-year-old millionaires we're working with. Like that's an exciting person to have a financial planning relationship with because they don't know what they want. They're relying on you. It's a lot of responsibility but you're able to set them up for a lifetime of wealth and financial independence. So I think that's part of the lure to Brooklyn FI.
But to answer your question, Maddie, we used Flex Jobs at first, Jazz HR. We tried to use websites to try to find candidates. And if you find a candidate that way, as opposed to a candidate finding you and like connecting with your culture and submitting that resume and taking the time to submit a video where they get to show their own personality a bit and open up to you via that video or that resume or that cover letter or what have you, the results are just a lot better if you can work it that way. And that's one of the things about scale I was talking about before. It's really hard to get the SEO up and get on the podcast and do the things until you get the size and the story. So the branding has helped out a lot with that and the size and the growth. And it's just like a rolling stone down a hill. It's a snowball. It kind of helps with all of that. It's one of the reasons why we want to continue to grow. We want to continue to work with really smart, great advisors.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. And for anyone who is looking to hire, Shane mentioned this tool called Jazz HR. That's been really helpful. It's just an aggregator. So it posts the job to Monster and LinkedIn and all those places. So, that's been helpful. That's how we found John. John just found us as a listing on Indeed. And, John is like, it's surprising that it took us so long to find John because he feels like so much a part of Brooklyn FI already.
Wow.
Yeah.
You mentioned your brand and both of you have really screamed your brand since day one. Who took the lead and how did you focus early on building that brand that developed such a strong reputation?
I guess it was part of the taxes in a bar and stuff. Like the company just kind of carried over from, AJ is a huge part of it. Now it had like this seed from when I was just a hustling tax guy in New York, trying to do whatever it took to grow a business. And I started doing taxes in a bar at one point, and there was a bit of there was blog coverage, and then it was in the Wall Street Journal and it was on TV and stuff. And then it just became like the brand was professional, but also fun. We got CPAs and CFPs here that are fun to work with. They know equity comp inside and out, but they've also got long hair. They can drink a martini with them, and you can also get the actual answers to your questions, not just life insurance. That's the vibe that we've always wanted to put out. And I think a lot of advisors have always wanted to be a part of that culture as well, where it's, it's professional, but it's laid back. And unfortunately, most of the giant RIAs that get all of the all of the resumes. They don't have that kind of culture. So we're trying to get the people that are looking for something else.
Yeah. Awesome.
And then in terms of the content, like the things that actually get published, like the blogs and all that, and the Instagram and all of the SEO, AJ is 100% in charge of all that.
Yeah, but I think the brand, it's, we called the company Brooklyn FI because we both live in Brooklyn, and, we're pretty, typical young professional Brooklynites. And I think clients really connected with that. So our brand is also due to our clients. In the beginning, we were definitely focused a lot more on creatives because of my creative background and, Shane's network with the Mason tax practice. And then it shifted to tech professionals, not very naturally. So now it's about 70% tech professionals, 30% creative. And we're happy with that. We don't want, I would imagine our niche might shift in the future. We're kind of happy to, kind of go with the flow and just be true to ourselves and be true to what the original mission of Brooklyn FI was, which is to deliver financial advice to those who can't get it elsewhere, who are underserved.
Is your tax practice separate and distinct from Brooklyn FI, or is it the same company?
Legally, it is a separate company because I think you guys do our compliance.
You tell us, man. Yeah. Shelby.
It has historically been a separate company because of the different regulations. And then as we get bigger, we realize more and more how, like, we registered with the SEC recently, and we've talked to your compliance team a lot. And the bigger we get, the more we realize that a lot of compliance problems are solved by money and ops teams that just separate disclosures, and just telling a client like what's going on is really the biggest thing in compliance land. So since transparency is one of our first values, we just tell our clients everything, and that apparently solves a lot of problems in compliance land.
Weird.
So just being an RA, but yes, to answer your question, we have a separate entity that we both, we're dealing with. We don't have to get into it, but yeah, we both own both companies. And every financial planning client, their taxes are included. And mechanically, it says we partner with Mason Tax, doing business as Brooklyn FI Tax, that will be handling your tax return for a $0 invoice. So they're separate entities for pretty much legacy reasons. We would love to roll them up together to make things easier in terms of K1s and tax returns and all that stuff that we have to file mechanically, and bank accounts and all that. But that's a problem for later.
How much do you credit the service of providing taxes and tax support through that business as part of your growth? Not everyone chooses to run a simultaneous tax practice alongside their financial planning practice. And I'm wondering, the folks I've talked to who do that end up growing pretty quickly. What's the relationship? And do you think it's leveraged in being able to sell on a client?
Absolutely. I mean, the foundation of Brooklyn FI is tax, and it always will be. So I think having that expertise, having that background has been really important. A lot of our favorite early clients came from the tax practice. We, up until this tax season, will be our last tax season where we do actually offer individual tax preparation. So that's, I think, been, maybe Shane, you can talk a little bit about that, because these are clients that built Brooklyn FI. They've been with Shane and the firm for, in some cases, 7-8 years. And, they're musicians and they're bartenders and they're interior designers who, aren't going to be a great fit for the full comprehensive financial planning relationship, just based on income, unfortunately. So, finding a way to say goodbye to them and making sure that they find a great home with another CPA, that's going to be something that we're going to focus on over the next year. But yeah, offering tax, especially in the equity compensation space, as an advisor and, master of these really complicated multi-year exercise and sales strategies, it honestly is surprising to me that more advisors don't do the tax preparation, because we're feeling kind of shell-shocked from the misreported basis we're seeing on 1099s, and just errors and missed planning opportunities for a lot of clients, that someone who doesn't have a holistic view of both the planning, the investments, and the taxes, things are going to get missed, and opportunities are going to get missed for clients.
Yeah, firing a lot of old one-off tax clients this year. We do your tax return review call, and at the end, I fire you. That's been fun. Done that about 50 times this year so far.
But we did find them a great home.
Yeah, no, they're fine. And and they've been cheerleaders for the firm all along. And they're like, I was wondering when you were going to fire me. And that's been awesome to have such like commitment and buy-in from clients as well. But yeah, the problem, like anyone whose niche has a big tax problem, yeah, like get into tax, like figure it out, or like hire John McCarthy, or like buy a tax practice or bring on a tax partner. If that's one of the biggest issues. I mean, for equity comp specifically, sometimes a client has to buy a house in 6 months, except it's a tax bill and they have no idea how much it's going to cost them. So that's one of the biggest value adds for us, is just providing, the forecast for the next 18 months in terms of what's going to happen. A lot of times it's just a forecast of what your tax bill is going to be, but oftentimes it's like, hey, if you do this now, it'll literally save you $70,000. I had a conversation with a client yesterday, and because she exercised her options before a client declared that they were going public, then I was doing her tax bill. And I was like, yeah, if you had exercised this 1 month later, you would owe $75,000 extra right now, So that's a client for life. If you get that done. So for anyone that's like has a niche wherein taxes are a big problem, like figure out how to do it, because you're going to be able to add a ton of value. And you have 2 services instead of just one. You're a lot stickier. Clients that do fire us, they fire us after we file their tax return.
Oh, right. Keep you around until
exactly.
Until
yeah. So yeah, they're going to fire us in
come
September.
back and say, "Oh, can you still file my tax return?" And it's been a great source of growth for us, and we wouldn't change it. But it also, when you are the accountant and the financial planner and the investment manager, everything is your fault. Mm-hmm. So if something does go wrong, or you don't get something done, according to the timeline that the client wanted, it does, this tax season with COVID delays, with all of, Congress changing the laws every 5 minutes and expecting accountants to just do the work and get it done on time. There's been some friction, and that's been interesting for us to navigate. Of like, we have this amazing personal relationship. I know everything about you, and I've talked about, you adopting a child, and we have this connection, but now you're pissed at us because your tax return is, getting sent to you 5 days before the deadline. And that's hard. And, we don't like that. And next year, a big focus for us is we're going to try to figure out capacity a lot more. It's also hard with growth, our growth rate, and all the COVID law changes, which we've now gone through 3 different cycles of that. So hopefully that'll even out a little bit, but I don't think it will.
I keep hearing horror stories about tax season, and that clients really demand a lot of communication around their taxes. And I'm wondering, I don't hear that all the time about, the average investment management relationship, but what is it about taxes that make people so hot?
Yeah. I don't know, Maddie.
Well,
where's my tax return?
Come on.
Where's my tax return?
Yeah. Well, when you plan for a tax season that requires about 8 people, and then Congress changes the rules in March, and you should have had 11 people all along, it's kind of hard to communicate that to clients. Like, clients don't care, totally. So you have radical responsibility. With all the growth comes all of the responsibility. So I'm aging a lot faster than your average bear, I feel like, but it's part and parcel of the growth for sure. The people that actually ask us for the most, our financial planning clients are actually pretty chill when compared to like one-off tax clients.
Yeah.
Because if we had a conversation in November and I told you you're going to owe $30,000 in April, and now it's late March, it's coming. Like, you're not asking, where's my return? Where's my return? Like, I gave it to you in early February. Like, it's been 2 months, because they already know it's going to happen. And then if it's really cool when you provide the return and it lines up with what you said 6 months ago, the client's eyes sparkle a little bit. Like, wow, they're doing some magic over here. It's like, yeah, it's great.
Totally. I'm interested in that, AJ, you said friction, and, at XYPN, we have something called the, Net Promoter Score Survey, the NPS. And it's just this survey that goes out every 6 months or so to members to see where in the line of 0 to 10 we fall in terms of likeliness of referral. Are you surveying your clients to get ahead of the curve with folks that might be disgruntled? And if so, who is on the other end of that escalation?
Yeah, we did survey our clients, and, with any business, when you have a group of clients, there's going to be the super responsive clients who read all of your emails and want to talk to you. And so those are the clients who responded to the survey. So we did a survey. We asked a lot of questions. We asked, what are the 3 words you would use to describe Brooklyn FI to your friends at a party? We asked them it was detailed, and the responses were overwhelmingly positive. So I think either folks were disgruntled and didn't want, us to, and look, and I'm, we're a bit shell shocked from this tax season. most of our, 95% of our client relationships are fantastic. And I love all of our clients. There's just a few spicy situations right now with tax season. So the survey was helpful a little bit. There wasn't a lot that we learned from it because I think just the clients who love us the most filled out the survey.
Yeah. We should do a raw NPS though.
We should. Yeah.
The way that you said that every advisor kind of has a cap to the number of clients they can have, at XYPN, we have kind of an understanding that you shouldn't be managing more than like 5 to 7 people at one time. How do you distribute the management responsibility? What's the org chart look like in terms of who reports to who, and how do you manage 10 other teammates?
Can we get back to you? No, just kidding.
Oh yeah, just report back.
Our org chart is very much in flux, and we've really been working with Angie to come up with that with what the future of the org chart is. Right now, it's basically I run the financial planning department. Shane runs the tax department. Anyone who's on the financial planning team reports to me. Same thing with Shane and the tax team. That will change. That will evolve into a more conducive, helpful structure probably by the end of the summer. We've looked at Angie's diamond teams. She's creating something more that's like a trapezoid for us on its side, like inside out. But yeah, we're excited.
Parallelogram.
Parallelogram. We're excited to pass that management responsibility onto other team members for sure this year.
I heard you mention that, AJ, you needed to get your CFP to become an owner of this company. You've referenced CFP as a requirement for your teammates. Not everyone takes that stance. Where do you, obviously I know where you fall with your ideas around the CFP, but how do you think it's impacted the success of your business, the fact that you require CFPs to be on your team?
I think the comprehensive roundedness of that education is so essential because, we say to ourselves all the time, like we do way too much for our clients. Like, clients putting a kid in private school in New York City, and they want us to help them fill out the financial aid form. Yeah, I'll help them with that. I shouldn't, but I will. and that sort of CFP, we're going to talk about insurance. You're also, you're going to understand how to look at a variable annuity, but you're also going to know how to help them with their S Corp tax return, having that rounded education and not being afraid I think the CFP really prepares you for what you do know and also what you don't know. I think other designations, like a CFA, you know everything about investments, you know everything about the markets. You take the stance that there's, you can answer any questions. Whereas with the CFP, it's more of like, oh, I actually don't know the answer to that question. Client, let me get 2 days to ask my network and do some research and get back to you. And that's been really helpful with clients where, if we don't know the answer, they really appreciate that. We're not just feeding them some, textbook response or worst case, the wrong response.
I have a hot take on that.
Oh, please.
If you why aren't you getting your CFP? Like, if you're like, oh, I have all the knowledge, then take it. Well, I don't want to be subject to the CFP's rules. Well, then you're not a team player. Like, and if you're not a team player, then you're not going to get on the Brooklyn FI's team because we don't need anyone I've ever heard complain about the CFP is like a lone wolf out there that's trying to do their own thing or like, yeah, I don't know. Like, bro, come on. Yeah.
We're big on designations. It's important to us. We think they're valuable. Yeah. Some people might say it's just a test, but we have a lot of letter. I'm a CFP, EA, CSLP, CEP, RLP.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, you're giving Michael Kitsis a run for his money.
Does that spell revenue when you put it together?
It does actually. Yes, it spells 3x revenue. But there's with equity compensation, there's this designation called the Certified Equity Professional or the CEP, and we searched around for how do we teach new team members about equity comp because you can read a bunch of books, but actually the personal side of it is important. But there's so many regulations, so that's run through Santa Clara University. Uh-huh. So we're, encouraging / sort of requiring all of our lead planners to take at least one level of that. So they have a framework. They understand, all these crazy laws that our clients are going to be subject to, like blackout periods and, 10b5-1 plans, things like that.
That base level amount of knowledge, especially with a growing team. Yeah, I would see that as being a huge value add. something I saw on your website that I don't see often is this incredible calculator for what the fees are for your clients. And it reminded me of what you said on earlier in this interview, where the quality of candidate who finds you is so much better than when you find them. Is that the same for clients who are coming in, that if they already have done that calculator, it's almost a slam dunk in terms of the conversation?
Yeah, I mean, slam dunk, maybe it's a slam dunk, but yeah, it's
more like a layup.
Yeah, it's a layup.
Yeah.
Yes, it's prepared them. I think one of the worst, anyone listening to this podcast, having a conversation about fees is the worst. So we took the approach that this is the fee. This is what it costs. Here's a video of, our team, meet us. We're going to lay out the whole process for you. If you have any other questions, hop on a 15-minute call with us and we'll answer whatever questions you have. So yes, having the fee calculator, having the video of us explaining everything makes the 15-minute call an opportunity for us to get to know the client rather than us having to explain our fee structure and explain the process. And honestly, it is a great way to weed out clients who are not a good fit, because if we say, did you check out our video that we've emailed to you 3 times? No, I didn't have a chance to watch it. You're probably not going to be a great client if you're about to pay someone multiple thousands of dollars and you couldn't take 5 minutes to check it out before, using our time. So, I think the website, the calculator specifically, and just being really strong about who we are and what it is, and not hiding that. That's that transparency, just not having to wait 6 months or, 3 weeks to book a call. With equity compensation, decisions have to be made sometimes within a few days. So the fact that a client could get on a discovery call on Tuesday and then get advice on Friday after signing a contract, I think that's kind of what, is unique about Brooklyn FI.
Yeah, it allows for speed. It's really hard to be fast with value pricing people. Like, here's how much I think I can get from each of these clients. And when you're adding a client every other day, we would need a full-time person to try to figure that out. Yeah. Right. So we're dealing with that on the accounting side of the firm too, is like figuring out how to standardize pricing and like try to put some value pricing into each of the options in the calculator. And with anything fixed fee, you're going to win some and you're going to lose some. And as long as you win most of them, you should be okay, which is what we've experienced.
Right. Yeah. And that our method has its flaws. Any way of charging anyone is going to be flawed. There are clients where, we look at that and we're like, oh my God, we've done 70 hours of work for this person and, we don't feel like we're being compensated adequately, but, that's just how it works. And we've gone through, 30 iterations of that calculator. So it didn't just spring up from nothing. A lot of work and a lot of hours and a lot of mistakes went into creating that. And we're constantly changing it as well.
every button on that calculator, Maddie, is a mistake.
Yeah. No.
That happened in the past. Yeah. It's like, if you see, do you have international tax issues? That was 22 clients that we forgot to price that in.
Are you going through a divorce where you had 4 different companies go public? And
Fascinating.
Right.
I imagine in your niche, the complexity gets really intense. And like you said, Shane, value pricing would become arduous. So I guess, would standardize it and protect you a bit.
Yeah. And I think that kind of comes back to your question about like the CFP, like why is it so important? It's because, the type of work we're doing is so highly complex and technical that if you aren't already an expert, if you have not mastered IRAs by this point, you're not going to be able to handle, AMT. So I think, having that baseline knowledge that's in many different disciplines. And I love that the CFP just added the psychology aspect. And I'm looking forward to the next generation of CFPs. Yeah, they added I don't know exactly what they're calling it, but it's more of like
behavioral finance.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Okay. Well, speaking of behavioral finance, are you all life planners, and do you build that into the relationship as well?
We do. Yeah. Life planning is a big part of Brooklyn FI. It was something, I think, Shane, you came across Kinder's writings or teachings very early on. We both answered the 3 questions, Kinder's 3 questions in the start of our relationship, and our answers were very similar, which I think was a good sign that we should be business partners. But yeah, we actually did Kinder's in-person training in Hawaii right before COVID started last year.
You did.
And
Wonderful.
That was a lot of fun. And yeah, we ask our clients Kinder's questions at the beginning of the relationship. And we kind of say, I know you have equity decisions to make, and if you have anything rushed, we can figure out the taxes, but really we need to know what your goals are and who you are as a person and what makes you happy before we start building, a diversification strategy for your $3 million of Google stock, because, you tell me you want to buy a house, but then when I talk to you and your spouse, actually, it seems like you love to travel. So maybe buying an expensive house is not what we should do. And we can actually spread out this exit a little bit more. So, clients love life planning. I think we've had some incredible outcomes of, not necessarily I'm quitting my job tomorrow, but life planning is all about making small changes and allowing clients and showing them kind of the crystal ball of financial freedom and having them, make small changes in their life, like hiring a virtual assistant to make their lives easier. Like, look, you can afford it. I didn't even know that was important to you because if we hadn't done the life planning.
Mm.
Sometimes I wonder
I'm getting teary-eyed.
As a recipient and consumer of life planning, I've been really impacted by it. And I sometimes wonder, how could you ever do financial planning without questions similar to that, to get to the heart of what's the impact you want to have? How do you want to be known? How do you want to live? And I'd be interested for you two to kind of tell the listeners a bit about before Brooklyn FI and after Brooklyn FI in terms of the impact you think you've had and you reaching kind of your destiny in terms of your ideal lives. Are you living differently than you ever thought you would, or where are we at?
I'll be happy to answer that question. But I want to know first, Maddie, is that why you went to Europe for, was it 5 months or was it a month? I don't remember what it was.
I went on a sabbatical because Alan Moore and Michael Kitces built that into our culture. And they said, after 5 years, you need to not log in for a bit. So they gave a cash bonus and I went to Europe for the first time in my life. And that changed my life, quite frankly. I think all the time I want another sabbatical and I need some more Europe time. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. Well, I guess I'll just talk about, you want to go first?
You go first.
Okay, here I am talking about myself.
Do it. You're on the show.
Yeah, sure. I think I've always just wanted autonomy, Maddie. I've always wanted to, it's not that I don't want a boss. I just want to control. I just want control. And I want to be able to just do fun, crazy things that you can't do unless you own a business. I think is one of the things that is necessary in order to have like true autonomy of your day to day. Now, you work 7 days a week a lot of the year. For those 3 weeks or 1 month that you get to decide that I'm going to spend the next, I spent 6 months in Mexico, Maddie. I was working the last 6 months in Mexico. I was working very hard, but when I checked out or when I walked outside of my house and walked my dog, I was walking through the jungle, and there was tarantulas, 10-foot or 10-inch tarantulas around, which was really rad. Something I really enjoyed. The internet wasn't fantastic, which AJ will attest to, but it was a wonderful experience. And I think that owning a business is really important for me to achieve those goals. And that's what I've been building towards. And I think I'm just going to continue building towards that. And life planning has really helped me realize that I want to own a business so that I can experience the world in fantastic ways. And then I also think that it'll allow me to provide those same experiences to our employees and to provide that worldly experience that makes people wise and hopefully our employees wiser than they were before they worked at Brooklyn FI as well. So that's the mission I'm on.
Cool.
Beautiful.
Yeah, I never expected to be here. I was an English major and worked in book publishing for my first career and then worked in music journalism. And this was a serious right turn or left turn for me. I was bad at math in high school. That's one thing I'm passionate about is actually expanding the financial services industry to creatives like English majors and philosophy majors. So that's going to be a focus for me in the coming years. But when I first started learning about money and how to manage my own finances, I felt this like overwhelming source of power, and being able to give that to other people through Brooklyn FI, whether it's, our group of 200 clients and all of their friends, because now they have this knowledge and now they feel empowered so they can, create their own webs of, understanding how to make money work for you. And that's sort of been, when I made this choice or I discovered this whole thing that I didn't know existed like more than 4 years ago, that was the mission that I set out, that's what I wanted to do. So I wanted to change the world where I wanted specifically women to feel empowered, with their own finances and allow them to do things like start companies, take time off work, have a decision of whether they wanted to raise a child or not, didn't need someone else to do that if that was their choice. And I think we're doing that.
You definitely are. AJ.
Yeah.
Every tax call that I've been on for the past 3 months, it's like, I know you got to deal with me right now. I know AJ's your planner. AJ's the best planner in the world.
AJ's the best.
It's always some radical tech woman that's just like changing the world by starting companies they're all awesome and you're doing a great job with them.
Yeah. I mean, it's this incredible moment in history for women. We've never had this before. And, women are on their way up. And I think, people of color and women of color are a little bit behind, and, whatever we can do as Brooklyn FI to bring that forward. I think financial services is a fantastic profession for women. And I think a lot of women are afraid is the wrong word, but just like, they look at financial services and they see bros in suits on Wall Street. And we're trying to say financial services does not have to be that. Financial services can be helping other women or helping families, change their lives. So come on down, get your CFP.
Totally. I had tears come to my eyes as you were talking, AJ and Shane. This is so beautiful. I love the triple impact you guys are having, not just on clients, but your employees and then your community. I know you've been an inspiration to a lot of XYPN advisors and folks in this area as you've remained super authentic to yourselves, chased your own dreams, and then become incredible leaders and folks to look up to. Any advice as we round out this episode for folks who are maybe sitting on the fence, not thinking that this is necessarily an industry for them? Maybe it's not a career choice that they want to make, but something's drawing them to it.
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, what should you do with your life, right? You got to figure out something that you're decent at, that you enjoy at, and the world needs, like the intersection between those three things, right? I think everyone should have an honest look at those requirements for a fulfilling career and see if they fit within those three things to start off with. And if you do land in that space and you're still struggling, I think you should stick with it until you find look up to mentors, reach out to the network, and explore different places within that ecosystem where you can have an impact, is all I could offer in that space right now.
Yeah. And try different things. I think we're in this moment where working at a firm like a boutique firm like Brooklyn FI could not be the right place for someone. Someone might want to take 4 weeks of vacation a year, and that's just not something that's going to be possible at a tax firm. So getting the idea around, getting comfortable with what you need in your life and finding the right place for you. It could be at a place like Ed Jones. That's you punch in, you punch out. We're different from that. We're going to be we ask for a lot more, but I think a smaller firm or any XY firm really we ask for a lot, but you get a lot more in return in terms of those client relationships and having a fulfilling workplace. It's not just let's make this portfolio or beat the market this year. It's let's change this person's lives. And, it's like that stupid idiom of like, teach a man to fit, give a man a fish, teach a man a fish, he'll eat for a lifetime. Show a client compound interest and you have changed their life. Absolutely.
Just want to clarify that our employees get 30 days of PTO before.
Oh, yes.
Hell yes. Wow.
But there's a lot of work in between those days.
Yes.
That's a lot. Yeah. That's incredible.
We're all looking forward to summer Fridays on the tax team.
Yeah. We also do summer Fridays. So every other Friday is just completely off. And that's, we've built something that we're proud of, but we worked really hard and our team members have worked really hard. We're kind of looking forward to getting bigger and normalizing the culture a little bit. Like, work hard, play hard has kind of always been in the background. We want to do a little less working hard.
Yeah. Finally, you guys have worked very, very hard. Congratulations to the two of you. I could sit and talk with you for many more hours, but we are at the end of our interview. Thank you so much, AJ. Thank you so much, Shane, for the work you've done in this community and with your clients and everyone that you've had the pleasure of interacting with.
Thanks, Maddie. And thank you to you and XY. And, it's this, we built this business listening to every single podcast episode. It's like, and in the beginning, we would change our entire business model based on a podcast we heard. We're a bit of a bigger ship now, so it takes longer to steer it. But, it's an amazing community that we've gotten so much out of. And we were truly sad to not have seen everyone at the conference this past year. And we're really looking forward to seeing everyone again in Denver.
I cannot wait. And yes, that's a nice opportunity to plug XYPN Live, folks. Come on down. Meet the advisors that make up this incredible XYPN community, AJ and Shane being among them. That's our annual conference. It'll be in Denver this year. I'm so glad that XY has played a role, but it certainly takes two unique folks like you to build something that you have. So congratulations and thank you so much.
Thanks, Maddie.
Thanks, Maddie.
Avocado toast, selfies, a mountain of student loan debt. Gen Y is anything but traditional, and with over 75 million people, it's a population you don't want to ignore. Learn more about how to serve this unique population in our guide called Attract and Profitably Serve Millennial Clients in Your RIA. Discover 3 key ways to tap into the millennial market and 6 things that they want from their financial advisor. Visit xyplanningnetwork.com/millennials for your free copy. Be sure to join our VIP community at xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP to hang out with other XYPN radio listeners, ask questions for future mailbag episodes, and finally, to find a community of like-minded financial advisors. Thank you so much for joining me today. We'll see you next time.
You are not alone and you are not crazy. It's scary starting, building, and growing your own financial planning firm, and that's why we put together a free private community just for you, the Cutting Edge Financial Planner. Go to xyplanningnetwork.com/VIP or text XYPN Radio to 33344 and join a network of thousands ready to change the lives of Gen X and Gen Y clients.